Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Loop It In podcast. I'm Santiago Marino, and today's guest is Bryan DeMuro, joining us to talk about his experience with real estate flips, buy and holds, self storage management, and also about his experience running a free indoor skate park for the community. So, thank you very much for joining us, Bryan, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity, Santiago.
Man, my pleasure. My pleasure. It's great to have you. Hey, Bryan, why don't we start from the beginning? Tell us a little bit about how you got started in real estate and, perhaps about how you got your first rental.
So it was really wild. Actually, my first rental was many years after I got my first start. I was racing motocross most of my life, skateboarding a big part of my life as well. And I got pretty hurt racing Florida 20. And I'm just trying to figure out what the next thing is for me. And a really close mentor, best friend of mine, Dan, that I've worked for him since I was like 15. He had rental properties, he had self-storage, and I was looking at the life that it provided him. And I was just, I need to do this for myself. And I kind of figured out what it would cost to, buy self-storage. And at the time, I had nothing. Like I was flat broke. Every dime I made went right back into racing. And I just kind of gave up on the dream for a little bit, but I was doing a lot of construction work for him in a lot of his rental properties, and we built a skate park, which we'll talk about that in a little while, but took it down to a block shell and redid this whole
Nice.
building. So yeah, and I had some construction experience, so I was like, dude, let's do a flip house. And I bothered him about that. I asked him every 2 weeks for about 2 years to do a flip, and he said, yeah, go find one, just to kind of shut me up, I think. And I found one.
Okay.
And I went under contract and started on my first flip at 22 with like $1,600 to my name. So yeah, it was an
Wow,
experience.
amazing. 22.
Yeah.
I wish, wow, definitely. Like, I wish I had done that at 22. Um, it's really, I find that very interesting that you started at such a young age, because I feel like a lot of people, including myself, don't do that. So that I find that very interesting.
Yeah, it was
Sorry, you were saying?
it was an
Mhm.
experience, compared to what a lot of people would say. I did all the work myself in that one. Yeah, it's not the way to flip 50 houses a year. Absolutely not. But the point was, for me, I went in and I did my first deal. Like, I got the first deal done. I was drinking tap water and eating sandwiches with nothing in the middle, just bread, um, for about 9 months. But the best part about it, like, I used
Wow.
Dan for private money on that, and we split the deal. He helped me out a bunch with it too, and
Gotcha.
it was proof of concept for me. And the coolest thing about it was, I made, on my side of that, I made about $13,000, 12 and a half, 13, something like that. And I was like, I was rich. This was the most money I've ever seen for me in my life. But the coolest part was taking this just
Wow.
the house that was vacant for years, renovating it, seeing all the work that's done to it. My vision came to life in the property, and a new family was able to buy it. And they've been happy. So this has been for years. And to me, that was
Wow.
that was like the biggest part of it.
Right, like very fulfilling
Absolutely.
to see the whole process, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
And
kind of,
in how hmm Sorry, you were saying it was kind of
uh,
what?
yeah, I said it was kind of crazy, whenever you go from the beginning to the end. And like, even now, if I look at the photos from it, it's just like, wow, you know what I mean? And that's where I got my start. It was about the hardest way into it, but I did it. That was ultimately, getting the first deal, getting it done, and proving to myself that it was capable.
Wow, amazing. And then after that first deal, how much time went by, until you got that second one? When did you think you were ready for the second one?
Interestingly enough, right after I did the first deal, I was like, this is it. I'm flipping houses forever. I love this. You know what I mean? And I started looking for another deal. And
Yeah.
Dan's mom, she retired in like 1996, and she was just a real people person and liked, renting storage units and talking to people. And sadly, she got really sick, and I got the opportunity to start managing self-storage. And, we have 424 units, 47 spots up on the hill. So we had like 471 units here. So I got the opportunity to do that. So I just kind of like pumped the brakes on flipping houses, and took about 2 years to really learn what it would take with self-storage, understand the time into it, what I needed to get very well at it.
Right.
And from there, when I was 26, I think it was 2018, I ended up buying 3 properties that year. I bought 2 buy and holds. Both of the buy and holds were off market. One I used creative finance, and then I did a flip that year as well. So.
Wow. So that was a nice jump. So 2 years, a little bit off, but then jumped in with three deals.
Yeah. It's kind of wild how whenever you start marketing for things or looking for things and talking to people, you'll go sometimes a few months with nothing, and everything just comes all at once. And that's what it did for me. The first rental property, I actually bought it. It was like January 27th. And it was Super Bowl Sunday. I was hanging out. Actually, I have a little like apartment up above that skate park, and I was just hanging out. It was snowing, and like kind of chilling, you know what I mean? It was a Sunday night, and I got, 4 days in, I get a call, hey,
yeah,
the furnace is broke. So, I made it 4 days before I had my first maintenance problem.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it goes like that sometimes, but the the 2 rentals, there was no work into them for me. And then the flip house, it was just in a small market outside of Harrisburg in Bressler. And it was a pretty cut and dry, paint, flooring, a little bit of electrical. It wasn't too extravagant, but it didn't really take that long. I think closing to closing, that was actually 6 months to the day. And the cool thing about this was whenever I went, I got my check from closing, and I was like, wow, I got a check for like 150 some thousand for me, and I have to go pay off my credit line to do this.
Wow. Walk
into the bank to, give them the money, pay off the credit line I was using. And the old president from the bank was retiring, and they were having a party for him. So I got to cash my check for this flip and have a bunch of like cookies and like stuff like this in the bank. So the timing of that was just hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you thought it was for you, basically.
I wish it was for me. I mean, every time I go to the bank, it would be cool if they would do that. It was just fitting for that. It worked.
Oh, man, that's interesting. And when it comes to like all the work, normally how many people are in your crew or in your team? How many people do you work with to get it done? The flips.
My first deal, my very first one, the way I do stuff now is different than my first deal. So my first deal, I knew a guy, he's been doing electricity since Edison created it. And he's retired now. And, for instance, I did all the work with him with it. And he took the time to show me how to do stuff. The second flip, I leveraged a lot of the stuff out, things like paint, stuff like that. I would do that. That's no problem. I also learned I really enjoyed sanding floors, kind of like mowing the grass. You know what I mean? You start mowing the grass and your stripes come in, you're like, wow, this is cool. And that's kind of how sanding a floor was to me. But with the second deal, I leveraged more stuff out. Again, at this point in time in my life, I was making, like $2,600 a year pre-tax. So, what I had to do was a little different than what a lot of other people had to do. Now, I had the time that I was able to maximize my time and capitalize on it, but I had to do what I had to do at that point in time. So now, the way things are today, it's a lot different. It's probably around 60-40. I mean, if I want to do something, I'll do it, mainly because I have the skills, and I do enjoy the challenge of it, If it's something that I know that there's a good chance you're going to break a water line behind a wall that's going to leak down into an apartment beneath you, I'm not doing it. You know what I mean?
Uh, totally. Yeah. You
Yeah.
don't want to take that risk.
No, 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 not at all. So,
Totally, totally. Now, that being said, has anything like that ever happened to you or gotten close to any unforeseen event
oh
like
man.
that during the construction or the flips?
Um, yes, there's always stuff that comes up. I cut a I cut the wrong water line a couple times. Luckily I was able to, shut the water off. They were single family homes.
Oh no.
But in the market that I'm in, I don't really have very many newer houses, so it's all old. So it's just the biggest thing that I found whenever I
Gotcha.
was starting was things that should take maybe an hour will take 2 or 3 because just maybe something wasn't rained properly. There were older homes. Um, I really try now to
Right.
like mitigate that and really plan out. If I'm doing it, I try to plan it out. I mean, if not, the contractors, I mean, they know they work in this stuff all the time. Um, but there's always crazy stuff
Right, right.
that just, you always come across some weird thing or, for instance, like code. I remember dealing with code for the first time when I was 22. And, for instance, I had a
Okay.
sidewalk from a front porch around to the back porch. And it was an old beat up sidewalk, and I dug it out,
Uh,
framed everything, pinned it all up, ready for concrete. Um, Concrete truck comes, and the borough manager comes and is like, "Hey, you can't do this." And I was like, "Why? Like, this isn't through code. This is like pouring a pad in your yard for like to put a grill on. Essentially, it's the same thing. It needs to go through code. All right." And
hmm
he sent the concrete truck away and like, can I draw something up for you? What can I do just so I can get this done? And nope, you have to send this concrete truck away. And I was on the phone with the code enforcer then
Wow.
with the company they use, and they're like, this isn't through us. And I'm like, okay, that's what
hmm
I thought. So she makes me send this concrete truck away, and
hmm
I'm like, can I draw anything for you? No, no. All right. So I stopped down in her office the next day, and what can I do so I can pour this sidewalk, this existing sidewalk from a front porch to a back porch through my yard? And she's like, well, can you just draw this out? And I'm like, why couldn't I do this yesterday? You know what I mean? Like, I offered to do this for you yesterday.
Right.
She's like, no, just draw something out and I can give you a permit. I was like, all right. So I draw it out, make it real nice, like the most detailed drawing for a 15-foot sidewalk that you've ever seen in your life.
Right.
And she's like, okay, that works. And I go, I get my permit now. She goes, there is no permit. And I'm like, what? You made me send a concrete truck away for a permit and I don't even get a permit, Um, so it's sometimes
Oh
not
man.
so much stuff that you see in construction. Sometimes it's people that you deal with in the construction.
I agree. Yeah, I'm sure you need to develop certain people skills and be very patient when
Oh,
you're doing this kind of work.
yeah. And I mean, I don't know how to word it other than when you're 22, people still treat you like a kid at times. And it's good to stand up for yourself, but do it in a right way that
Totally.
you're about it. You know what I mean? I never was swearing at the lady. I was always polite to her.
Right.
Um, I was growing up, if I don't call somebody sir or ma'am at 31, my mom would break through this wall behind me. Use your manners, young man. So, I mean, I was always very polite with her, but
Good.
it's a good learning experience dealing with code and just knowing the stuff that goes into it, whatever you're learning, at least in my opinion. I mean, I
hmm
said I didn't come from a 100,000 a year job. I mean, I started like with nothing. So that was my barrier to entry.
Gotcha, gotcha. Wow, very, very interesting. And let's talk a little bit about the self-storage manager. Can you tell us like how you you mentioned that you started doing that after your first deal for a while, for two
Man.
years. Can you tell us kind of like the learning curve for that? What are some of the things that you you didn't know you had to apply in this kind of industry that you learned with experience as a self-storage manager?
Absolutely. So whenever I started doing all this with Paul Storell, they were actually doing it out of like 3-ring binders and this note card system, very old school. And it worked, but whenever I got this plopped on me, I was like, I'm just not doing it. Like, no way. And at the time, self-storage software wasn't nearly what it is today. And I got a self-storage software. I unloaded everything. And the deal, at least in Pennsylvania with self-storage, is it's pretty cut and dry. It's pretty simple. The thing for me was learning how to schedule my day, make appointments, and really get on a good schedule. Like when I was doing that first flip house, I was on a relatively decent schedule. But I just had to be at one place, and then I had to be at that skate park at 6 on certain days of the week to open it. So that was pretty much it. I had 2 places to be.
Gotcha.
Learning self-storage, it was learning how to, I have these appointments on this day. On this day, late letters go out. I need to reach out to these people on another day. Certified mail for storage sale goes out on another. So there was a lot of time management that I had to learn with that. And then just dealing with people. I mean, I went from really having no tenants under me to factoring in people that have double, probably 375-ish people. And sometimes people get really upset.
Wow.
Sometimes people are really cool to deal with. So it was a lot of learning how to manage people and understanding sometimes people are just having a bad day and I'm the guy they get it taken out on, and it happens. You'll find that in anything. If you're a mail carrier, if you're a property manager in real estate, you're selling cars, anything. I mean, sometimes people have a bad day. It's the guy getting the brunt of it that day. But for the most part, self-storage is pretty basic to run. The people 98% of the time are awesome to deal with. If I see tenants and stuff out here, I go out and talk to them, ask them how their day's been. And overall self-storage has been a great experience.
Interesting. Because, with my experience, I think best case scenario is someone goes in, pays, puts their stuff in the container or whatever, and then at the end of the month or when they're done, they take it out. Period, right? That's like best case scenario.
Yeah. So we typically have between
and worst.
We have about 1.5 to 2 year average stay, so we don't really get many in and outs. But the worst case, is the worst case is you just end up selling the units. You don't have to go through this lengthy eviction process like you do in housing, and it's kind of like a 1, 2, 3. 3 months, you're gone. I understand that self-storage, and I'll get some flack about this, but I mean, it's the truth. Self-storage is a lower priority bill than like your rent or your mortgage, your a light bill. So I understand that it's probably one of the first ones if somebody has a tight month to get ignored. Being said, with all the units that we have, we advertise sale probably 10 months out of the year. And if we get 1 unit or 2, that's a big sale. So we lock people out. We do all the remedy that you're supposed to, and most of the time people pay, and that's out of 471. So it's very rare. It's very rare that people just straight go don't it and just they're out. You know what I mean? They just don't pay. So most of the time people come back and pay.
Got it. And then when you sell those, is that like an auction, like I've seen on TV kind of thing?
Yeah.
People go in and buy them blindly and then...
Yeah.
How does that work?
We call it TV rules. If you're a giraffe and can reach your head all the way in the back and look in, then you got the advantage. But we open the door. When you open the door, you walk in, and highest bid gets it, and you have the end of the weekend to clean it out. So.
Interesting. Has anybody ever found, or have you found something particularly interesting to share?
Yeah, there's always things that show up. So like over the years, there's been a lot of just weird things that have happened at Pulse Store. You know, if you if you work at a Giant and you're there long enough, you'll see some interesting things. You'll find a lot of Christmas tree stands. A lot of Christmas tree stands. You'll see those. Um, recently we've
That's
been
funny.
finding in the sales some older tools, things like that. I mean, nothing of super high value. I mean, we've had units that have had
Gotcha.
full like Mac toolboxes, things like that. Um, on the
Okay.
most of it though, honestly, is if you just think of stuff that's in your basement or your attic, and you're like, man, I really need this space, but I don't want to throw it out. I
Right.
want to get through it. It just goes into storage, you know, and that's what a lot of people do with it. And the goal
Gotcha.
is eventually they'll go through it, and, you know, liquidate and or get rid of things, and just a lot of the times it just stays there.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And on average, about how much do they sell for at this
Um,
when people bid for
not
them?
not as high as TV. I'll say that. I am a firm believer that a lot of the things in the Storage Wars show is definitely put in there and done up for
It's not
TV.
true.
But
Yeah.
I mean, average you're looking
Mm,
around
okay.
150 to 300 a unit. Sometimes they sell for 20. We've had some sell
Oh,
for
okay.
800. So I mean, it all really just depends on what's in there or
Got it.
what somebody perceives to be in there.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So, as an investment, do you think it's something that people should probably know about? Perhaps investing in an actual storage facility and doing this as a business? Is
Yeah.
that something you
So
would recommend to someone?
I think so. I think I'll tell you this. I mean, if I was managing 471 apartments, it would be a heck of a lot harder than in storage. Um, you know, your maintenance is maybe a lights out or a door spring's broken or getting rid of snow. It's not a heater going out when it's cold. It's not a pipe
And
breaking
that's it.
behind a
Hmm.
wall and running into another unit. It's the maintenance on it super low. The underwriting of it is fairly similar to multifamily. It's it is fairly lucrative to get in though.
Hmm.
That's to deal with it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, I always thought, that there would be a good investment. Same with like some people that invest in like lots for people to park cars and trucks.
But
That places that require little to, no maintenance. It's really just a lot. Need a
yeah,
fence, maybe.
yeah, absolutely. I mean
In
those
your case, a few other things as well.
yeah, I mean they're very, very, very hands off, and that's really nice on a management and a business aspect of it. I mean the maintenance is a lot lower.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm definitely interested in that. I'm gonna look into it a little bit more.
we've had some wild stuff happen though. It was
I'm
wild.
sorry. What were you saying?
We had some wild stuff
Oh,
happen
really? Like what?
the last year or so. A kid, he was 20 years old. Sadly, he was drinking and driving. Blew through a
Yeah.
guardrail and launched off like a
Ah.
15-foot bank and cleared about 65 feet and landed into the side of our building. And I'll tell you guys this. I mean,
Wow.
he was in and I forget the name, but it was a Scion compact car, and that kid walked out of there completely unscathed. So if you want to get reckless in a car, a Scion is the way to go. I mean, how this kid not only wasn't hurt at all, but lived.
Safe cars.
Saying, yeah, the guy took out 3 storage units. You know what I
Got
mean? Like
lucky.
three individual units. And like I said, he launched probably 60, 70 feet off off of a 15-foot high bank and completely unscathed. So
And like, what happens to the items that were in those units? Hmm.
yeah, so there was 3 units. The one person in the middle unit didn't even, they were like, I understand things happen. It was out of your reach, you know, and they had their insurance. Whenever you come here, you know, you can either provide your own insurance or you're self-insured, one of the two. The person in the end unit, they had a
Gotcha.
TV from about 2003 that broke, and they were kind of upset about that. But we got
Hmm.
everything taken care of with them. And then the one unit was empty. So the person
Okay,
paid for that, and they
that's
use it
easy.
part time of the year. The part time it's empty, but they just pay for the year and they use it, when they need it. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad, I guess.
Gotcha. So it wasn't 2 out of 3. Wow, very interesting. Well, thank you for all of that information. Definitely opens up, a lot of possibilities, because I think a lot of people, when they think of real estate and land, they only think of houses and apartments.
No, I know.
But there's so much more. I
Oh,
think the
absolutely.
self-storage facility and business, it's certainly interesting. Hmm. Now, I wanted to ask you about sourcing your deals. You mentioned that you source them off market. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so nothing against real estate agents or anything like that. I've just had good luck finding stuff off market. I'm really active in my community. I'm in the Lions
Okay.
Club. I'm on the board of directors for the
Hmm.
swimming pool in town. So I'm always doing stuff in town. People know about me, and I talk about what I do.
Amazing.
And besides that, I'll get on PropStream, full lists, call people, and just keep up with them. Just touch base with them, see how they're doing. But a lot of my deals have came from just the network of people around me, people
Hmm.
that see me doing stuff, and they're like, they know what I do. And I live in a pretty small market. So
Hmm.
being active in the market, people seeing me
Gotcha.
doing stuff to the community and bettering the community. And I try to be as approachable as I can. I mean, I'm always happy to talk to people and talk. So that's kind of brought a lot of deals to me.
Makes
Talking to
sense.
people, letting people know what you do. I mean, that's the best thing to do. I mean, I'm not out buying, like I said, I'm not buying 50 units a year, 50 houses a year. I mean, I do about 2-3 transactions a year, and that works for me for right now.
Thank you. And I'm glad you touched on your interest in being part of the community and helping out the community. That's something I definitely wanted to touch on. The indoor skate park that you've been operating for almost 12 years now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So this was my mentor, Dan, I was saying about earlier. So I grew up skateboarding. I skateboarded from when I was 8 to when I was about 16. Racing got a little bit serious for me, so I stopped skating for a couple years. So I was working with him when I was
Hmm.
in the state. I'd stay here, work with him. I'd be able to ride here and then go out and race. And people in town were complaining about the skateboarders. And Dan's like, there's this property
Of
in
course.
town that the borough is on the other owner to either tear it down or clean it up. Do you want to buy it and put a skate park in it? I was like, are you serious? And he goes, well, I
Wow.
could buy a beach house or I could do this for the community. I'd rather do that. And I was like, okay. And that's something that really stuck with me. I mean, when I was learning about money, this guy was giving back and providing value to other people, not even in a monetary thing. Like he was putting his money where his mouth was and trying to better other
Hmm.
people and make his community better. And
Right.
that spoke to me. So he bought this building. It was 1.9 acres, commercially zoned in town for $70,000 in 2011. And we worked on it like crazy. I mean, we tore it
Wow.
down to a block shell, put a new roof on it, redid the whole front end. I mean, this place was disgusting. There was 9 tons of tires like in this building. We spent the first probably month
Wow.
cleaning out the part that the skate park was in. I mean, you couldn't even see the floor in there. And he put his money
Wow.
where his mouth was and built this place for the kids. And we opened the end of September 2011. And it's free. It's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 to 9, Sunday, 4 to 8. We've had those same hours forever. And the mission with that, outside of,
Wow.
keeping it going, which it's been going now for over a decade, is as the kids come through and they turn 17, 18, we can put them in a position where they can come in, they get a key They can open one night a week. They get some volunteer, community
Wow.
stuff that they can do. They get a little bit of management experience, opening,
Amazing.
closing things. It looks good on our resume. It looks good on a resume for people. Outside of that,
Absolutely.
yeah. And outside of that, to me, it's cool being able to talk to these kids. And, there's always some issues that you just don't want to talk to your parents about, like, oh man, how should I go about this? And I
Right.
can kind of
Yeah.
guide these kids in a right direction and show them too, like, you can be the craziest dude on a skateboard all you want, but you can still go out and succeed in business and do whatever you want. I mean, you don't have to let one thing define your whole entire life. It's 2023 now. You can do everything.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. I agree. That's fantastic. That's so awesome. I hope one day I can go and visit and get on a skateboard.
Well, you're always welcome to come up,
I'll
brother.
probably need some helmets and protective gear.
I'll get you some elbow pads.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'll bring my helmet, my okay, my pads. Awesome. And as far as like the construction of the skate park itself, I'm assuming you put rails, right? And like the ramps.
Yeah. So,
Like what else?
we built, basically it's kind of like, you think of like a half pipe. It's kind of like that, spread out a lot more. One side
Right.
has like an S turn in it. The other side's a little bit taller with like a bank ramp in it. But we built all that, funny enough, in between my first flip and starting the other stuff with the rental properties and whatnot. I did build for Detour at Ocean City, and I got to build some skate parks and stuff down there as well, actually on the beach in Ocean City, which was
Oh wow.
pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, we did
Wow, amazing.
the thing ourselves. I got really good at cutting half circles with a circular saw and a worm drive. But it was I like
Nice.
the challenge of building that kind of stuff. It's not, nothing is straight. I mean, don't get me wrong, all the decks and everything are level, but you're doing
Right.
intricate cuts, and it's just nothing is standard on it, and it's fun.
Right.
It's a good challenge.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of room for creativity and how can we make it more interesting, more fun? I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
yeah, that, like I said, like those bolt pieces, I mean, nothing in those, whenever you have wood curving this way and that way, nothing is straight at all. So it's wild. You look at it,
Mhm.
the joints look like they're straight. They're
Mm.
actually like kind of football shaped whenever you pull them out. So it's definitely a challenge.
Wow.
So
Very interesting. Super cool. And Brian, there's another thing I wanted to talk about. You mentioned about being a subto student, if I'm pronouncing that
a
correctly.
sub 2 student.
And I did some research on that, and it seems quite interesting. Sub 2 student. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Your experience with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a community I'm in. East Morby is like the head of it. We do a lot of things with creative finance, innovation,
Mhm.
off-market deals. For me, it was joining the community. I mean, I'm surrounded now by a community of people that are like-minded, and I think everybody should do something
Mhm.
like that. I go to the networking events locally in the area. I go to some of the sub 2 networking events.
Mhm.
Just being around other people in the business, it's always good. You can bounce ideas off of and get battle buddies to do things.
Nice. Yeah, very interesting. I like how you mentioned the importance of being part of the community, networking, and also like mentorship. I think a lot of people don't really realize how beneficial that can be. Having a mentor and being a mentor for other people. Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I owe a lot of the things, pretty much everything, to Dan. He was the dude that took a chance on me and got me started. Outside of that, I mean,
Mhm.
just getting around people that are doing it. It sounds things will sound really scary. You know, how do I deal with this problem? Until you've dealt with someone who's went through that problem, and he's like, oh, dude, that's nothing. You just got to do this, this, and this, and it's solved. Yeah. And I found that just getting around people that
Right.
are where you want to be and that are doing the business, that helps. That helps so much. I mean, I remember having my worst day in real estate. And I called Dan and I was like, dude, like this, and this went wrong. And I don't know what's up. Like, I was miserable that day, you know, like everything went wrong. And he just started laughing on the phone. And I immediately was like, you're laughing at this? He goes, don't worry about it. We'll get this taken care of. And stuff like that. You know, if I didn't have somebody to lean on, what ended up being a super big problem was a big problem to me at the time. Like, he just eliminated it and was like, this is no problem. We can take care of it. And it's good to have those kind of people in your back and surrounded by you that you can lean on. And it just helps. It really does help. Get around other people that are doing things that you want to do. And provide value to them also.
Yeah, I agree. I agree because, you know, sometimes, right. Like, how can I be of value to you? I agree. Yeah, a little bit of like give and take.
Absolutely.
A nice balance. And yeah, that brings me back to another interesting point that, you know, we wanted to talk about why your why is important. Why your why is important. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Your why is different from everybody. I mean, for me, it's how I can give back to my community. Where I'm at right now with my current portfolio, I mean, I'm pretty good. You know, I can live an okay life. Everything now going forward is, you know, what I can do to help give back and improve others. I mean, I'm now just kind of, I don't have like a unit goal. I just want to reach my potential, you know, and for me, it's finding that. What real estate has provided for me is a way that I have earned that I can give back. I can go and, as funny as it sounds, I can go and paint the community pool and save them money on a Thursday afternoon if I want to. I can take the time or I can take the money and donate it to the Lions Club to help a family that, you know, might have had a fire or somebody that needs to get glasses. And for me, that's the biggest part is what I can do to give back. I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to take care of my family and stuff, but I mean, I don't have a wife and kids. I have 4 cats.
Right.
And, you know, I can only buy so much cat food. I mean, at least in the meantime,
nice.
They're taken care of. And it's what I can do now to help better my community and do the things that I want to see in my community. And that's a big thing that drives me. It will take a good day and make it great, and it'll take your bad days and make them a lot better. And it's always good to keep that in mind. You know, you'll run into points anytime in your business. Eventually you'll have one day that it's just like, why am I doing this? And it's like, oh yeah, this is why. This is the big picture. I just think it's important for people to key in on that and focus on
it. Wow, I agree. Very powerful words you mentioned, because yeah, at the end of the day, I think sometimes people think that to be happy, they just need to satisfy all their desires. But I've heard from many people, including yourself just now, you didn't say it necessarily, but I think that by helping the community, by helping others, is how humans get to be the happiest, I think. It's like we're here as a team.
I mean, if you break it down, we're on a rock flying through outer space together. You know, I mean, why not try to help each other out the best we can? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great way to look at things. And Bryan, going back to like the investments and running your business, are there any special tools or softwares that you like to use and that you would recommend, and why? How are they useful to you?
Yeah, I use DoorLoop for my property management. I mean, I have 16 units and I manage a duplex for a friend of mine. So I have 18 units in that, and makes everything perfect. I mean, it is very easy to use, it's user friendly. I like that. For sourcing some of my off market stuff, I use PropStream. I mean, I can pull lists, skip trace off of that. Both those tools kind of really make things a lot easier, in my opinion.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I'm really glad that DoorLoop has been good to you, and that that it makes your life easier and your business.
Like, the customer service is amazing. I'm not trying to, it's great.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. We hear that a lot, and which makes me very happy. And because we do have a great team, the culture here at DoorLoop is really nice. We try our best to provide a fantastic service to everyone.
Oh,
So I'm really glad that it's working for you, Bryan.
it's great. It's like, you can call people, get a hold of people. So I love that.
Right, real people, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bryan, out of everything you've learned from mentors like Dan, is there anything in particular, any habit or any practice, something that you learned that you now apply, that comes to mind that you'd like to share with us, something that you learned along the way that has helped you a lot?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of ties in with the why. I mean, ultimately, not to be greedy. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, there's a difference, I think, between being greedy and doing things for the right way. Outside of that, I mean, practices, I mean, whenever we go through and look at properties, I mean, a thing that's helped me is I was essentially a contractor. I know what I'm looking at. I know how to handle the contractors because I've done a lot of, I tell my contractors, I really don't care what you charge.
Right.
As long as you're doing a good job. If you're doing a good job, I want you to be able to make money. Now, don't go and pipe me on it, but like, if you're charging a fair price for the job, I would rather do that and keep the relationship going, and, give you a return customer. I'll keep coming back. I just don't want to have to go back and fix it 3 months later. So it's really doing it the hard way at first has really helped. It's helped me a lot with where I'm at in my investing now, as I'm starting to, hire contractors out and have other jobs done. I can really look at bids and figure out, where this really should be, and I don't want to, I understand contractors that they have a wife, they have a kid, they have families, they have insurance, they have payroll, they need to make money too. And I understand that. So it's being able to look at stuff and figure out, what things about should be. And that was a big thing, because Dan was originally a masonry contractor. He felt, storage, you get out of doing masonry. He was self-employed too at 22. So, he got out of it when he was 39. But that was one of the big things that stuck with me, is learning like what things should cost and being able to apply it to where I'm at with my properties.
I see. Thank you for that, Bryan. All right, Bryan. So, question: do you have any particular projects coming up in the near in the near future regarding, like, maybe opening up another skate park or anything big like that you'd like to share with us?
No opening any more skate parks. We have 2 of those right now. We got one at a public sale right when COVID started, right when they shut the state of Pennsylvania down. We bought one at a public sale, and it's in a pole building. But right now, I'm just turning units. I have a vacant unit right now that we're in the middle of renovation on. Value add, smaller multi-family, it's a 4 unit. I am actually going to be selling my first rental property I bought, and if everything goes according, I mean, we'll be
nice.
I'm not going to drop any numbers or anything yet, but I'm going to be in a self-storage deal, hopefully, that we short market with creative finance, seller financing on it at a really good rate, like an interest rate. So I don't want to jinx it yet. I mean, we don't have anything signed at the moment, but I mean, we'll see. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, Bryan. So just one last question here. What tips would you give to someone who is interested or maybe just learning about getting into real estate?
I have a few. obviously first get educated. I mean, my first rental property I bought, the first rental property I bought, my payment on it was $517.73 a month, and I was bringing $650 a month in, and I thought I was like, dude, I got cash flow, and I didn't think of this thing called insurance and taxes. Being said, I was able to hold. If you can hold long enough and keep doing your rent raises, you'll be fine. I mean, real estate, if you can hold long term, usually always does well. But get educated on it, get around people that are doing it. And if you are able to talk to them, if you ask them a question or, hey, how do I source a deal? And they tell you how to do it, go do it. Go take massive imperfect action and just do it. Because here's the deal. You're going to mess up. I mean, everybody messes up. It's part of it, you know? It's not win or lose. It's win or lose. And I mean, nobody in real estate has done everything 100% perfect. Everybody needs, and don't let the fear of the mistake stop you from doing it. Just get out there. Either get on the phone, start calling people, or going to your networking events. And you need to do to get things going. There are plenty of people out there that are willing to help you see you succeed. You just got to go find them.
And Bryan, is there a way for people to contact you in case they have any questions about real estate or perhaps about skateboarding?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram at Bryan_DeMuro, DEMURO. I'll also respond to cat videos. You're welcome to send me those too. And you can send me an email at streetcatinvestments@outlook.com.
Amazing. I'll make sure to add that in the description for the podcast. Thank you very much,
I
Bryan.
appreciate it.
Do you have any closing thoughts before we leave? Any last idea you would like to leave us with? Or
Well, I just want to thank you all
anything
for
else?
the opportunity and let me do this with you. I mean, this is the first one I've ever done, so it's been an experience, and I'm really happy I had the opportunity to do it. So I just want to thank you, Santiago, a ton for this.
Oh man, my pleasure, Bryan. It was a lot of fun. It's been great getting to know you, learning about your business, and I have to thank you very much for for joining us today. Really, it's amazing that you had the time to join us, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm really glad you're out. Of course, thank you. I'm really glad that you're out there helping out the community with the skate parks, with the kids, providing housing for everyone in your community. I think that's very, very powerful. And I really appreciate you joining us and sharing your perspective. All right, so Bryan DeMuro, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening all the way to the end. Don't forget to give us a good rating on whatever platform you're tuning in from, and we'll be back soon with another new episode. We hope to see you there, and until next time, this has been Loop It In.